Good evening and Assalamu alaikum, everyone. On behalf of the GET-BS, which is an acronym for Graduate Engineering and Technological Business School, Faculty of Industrial Management, FIM, University Malaysia, Pahang Al Sultan Abdullah, UMPC, I would like to warmly welcome all of the participants to tonight's industrial talk titled, Why Digital Supply Chains Are the Answer to Today's Economic Chaos. My name is Ahmad Fauzan bin Ahmad Faizal, and I'll be your MC and moderator for this evening. MC stands for Master of Ceremony, but the true master will be introduced later. So, moving swiftly on, we are honored to be joined by our familiar faces, our esteemed lecturers from FIM, Dr. Noraina Mazui binti Safwan, and Dr. Karinisa binti Abdul Aziz, both graduated and have experiences in HR, in operations, in economics. Thank you, doctors, for your presence and continued support of industry academia engagement. So tonight's session brings together participants from both postgraduate and undergraduate programs. From the MBA program, we have students from classes Managerial Economics and Service in Management. And from the degree student, we have a class from Principles of Economics. So we are delighted to have such a diverse academic audience with us this very evening. And just a few quick housekeeping notes before we begin. Please, everyone, keep your microphones muted during the presentation because we don't want to have any disruptions throughout the sharing session by our esteemed guests. And then you're welcome to submit questions in the chat at any time, and I'll read it later. And then we'll open the floor for discussion during the Q&A session later at the end of the session. So we strongly encourage every participant, every student to participate, to engage fully with the session, and your questions are very, very much welcome. So tonight with GET-BS FIM, we have a very special guest that I'm very excited to introduce. We are joined by a man whose mind operates where most of us only observe, only learn theoretically. This doctorate candidate of Multimedia University pioneered the launch of multifaceted entity at the intersection of engineering, IT, operations, planning, and many more. Datuk Raghu Bathamenadan, Vice President and Managing Director of Western Digital Tech and Regional Center Sendirian Berhad. This Darjah Pangkuan Sri Malacca figure brings decades of global leadership experience in supply chain and manufacturing, overseeing multi-billion dollar businesses that support a significant portion of world's data storage needs. His expertise in digital transformation and supply chain resilience makes tonight's topic intriguing, yet especially timely. So without further ado, I'm pleased to invite this University Malaya alumni, once a degree student like us, to begin his presentation. Datuk Raghu, it's an honor, sir, to have you with us. Welcome, Datuk. Please.
Thank you, Ahmad Fauzan. A very good introduction, and I'm very proud and humbled by your introduction. And I would like to thank University Malaysia Pahang for this opportunity for me to share the industrial knowledge that I've gathered over the years with the students as well. Is my slides visible and am I audible? Can you all see the slides?
Yes, it's visible.
All right. So slight change on the topic, but it's the same. Thriving in chaos, the strategic imperative of the digital supply chain. That's the topic for today. But before I move, I know Mr. MC has actually given an intro, but I thought I'll just go a bit more before we start off the lecture. Yes, my name is Raghu Bathamenadan. I'm actually married with 3 children. My eldest is a medical doctor serving in Bintulu, Sarawak. And second will be a doctor in March, final year. And the third one is actually doing law. My background, education, I'm a physics graduate from University of Malaya. I did my MBA 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago in Multimedia University. And I've just completed my research on succession planning in Malaysian MNCs, and getting ready for my work completion defense, my doctorate in business administration. I'm very passionate about university affiliations, so I'm appointed by the CEO as CEO at faculty with University of Malaysia Perlis by the Ministry of Higher Education. I'm an elite fellow at Department of Physics, University of Malaya, my alma mater. And both Taylor's and MMU has appointed me as the industrial panel / advisor for their programs. From an industry standpoint, I'm a committee member of the Malaysian Chamber of Commerce, American Malaysian Chamber of Commerce, as well as the governing committee member of National Productivity Council. On a social affiliation, I'm a trustee of one temple in Shah Alam, and I've received a couple of awards. All right. Now let's dive into our topic for today. The critical element or the key questions, why are we in this topic today? The answer is the new reality is relentless disruption. That means that so many events that actually can influence our supply chain, right? Today we are operating in an environment that defined by persistence and overlapping shocks. For example, we have geopolitical conflicts and trade fragments. We had wars in Ukraine, right? And trade issues that we are having, tariff issues. We have inflation and interest rate volatility. We came up from pandemic and recovering from the post-pandemic shocks that changed the environment. We have climate-related disruptions where we have typhoon that affects production. We have floods. We also have talent shortages and labor cost pressures. And finally, and most importantly, we have demand volatility as a result of all this with shorter product life cycles. This chart actually shows the trajectory of since 2010 on the global disruptions. Towards 2018, in the last 6-7 years, we had gone through the logistic crisis, we have gone through the pandemic lockdowns, as well as a semiconductor shortage. And it's just going to continue. COVID, we thought we were coming up from COVID, but then we went to electronics shortages, and then we go into trade wars, and before that was the war as well. So it's not going to end. It's continue to have new elements that influence the supply chain. Now, the traditional supply chain were not built for this. The right side chart actually shows the bullwhip effect. I'm sure those who have studied this, a bullwhip effect is a small change in customer demand as it progresses to the retailer, distributors, manufacturers, and the component manufacturers. It becomes very volatile. A small change becomes a very big change towards the end. That creates a massive disruption in the upstream. This system, or the traditional system that we have, has structural weaknesses. It's linear, siloed, they are not integrated, they are siloed. The information that the traditional system has is actually lagging, weeks or months old, pretty much driven by Excel spreadsheet planning, over reliance on forecasts, and the reaction to that is not real time. And finally, we do not have scenario planning capability, as we are actually only busy with fulfilling what is in front of us. Traditional supply chain is actually optimized for yesterday's data or yesterday's demand with yesterday's data, optimizing for a past that no longer exists. If you look at the right side of the diagram, that's how the traditional supply chain worked. We had a supplier that produced parts to the factory produced to the warehouse move it to distributor, and the distributor move it to the customer. Look at the bottom right. everything is linked within supplier to warehouse, supplier to customer, factory to warehouse, factory to distributor. Everything is linked. This is what we call digital supply chain. It's actually a data-driven technology that enable network that can sense the disruption in real time, simulate alternative scenario, and ability to respond dynamically throughout the ecosystem. Now, this chart actually shows the comparison of a traditional to a digital. As I mentioned before, traditional supply chain planning is linear or sequenced or siloed. It's very reactive. It's cost focused, and we have periodic planning. That means it's not continuous planning. You do it once and then you do it later again and again on a periodic time frame. On a digital supply chain planning, it's actually network. All the data actually is in the system. And I'll talk about this a little bit more later, which is the predictive phase. With the digitization and AI enabled, we are able to predict. It's not cost focused only, but actually focused on value and resilient focused. And it runs continuously. It's not a periodic planning. Now, what are the 4 pillars of digital supply chain? It provides the end-to-end visibility. That means from the demand, from the logistic, from the warehouse, from the manufacturing, from the end customer, everything is actually connected. It's actually automated and can be orchestrated because you have everything in dashboard, call it end-to-end planning. With the help of AI and analytics, we are able to do more of predictive analysis. And we'll also be able to use digital twin as well as scenario planning to do a what if. In summary, digital supply chain actually reduced the decision latency, not only cost. To elaborate on this chart, end-to-end visibility provides real-time tracking of inventory, shipments, as well as capacity. That covers, as I mentioned before, all the way from suppliers to logistics to factory as well as customer data. Advanced analytics and AI provide a demand sensing able to provide predictive risk detection as well as both inventory and capacity optimization. This only possible if automation and orchestration is done, which is automated replenishment, smart production scheduling, autonomous logistic decisions, which is all integrated. And today, customers are moving their demand very fast. And the first question they ask is, what if I give you this much order on product A? When can you give it to me if I take down product B, but I want product A sooner? What if I swap this product building plans and so on? All these are not possible unless we have digital supply chain capability. It also enables to executive for a faster decision making. So when you put side by side, we're actually moving from chaos to control. The traditional supply chain was always a chaos, and we're always in a reactive mode. From a demand volatility, from a supplier failure, from a logistic disruption, from an inflation pressure, from policy change, such as trade and so on. But digitally, how we respond to it is for the demand volatility, we are able to have AI demand sensing. We're able to have multi-tier visibility. We're able to reroute to the best possible route that we have for our customers and the cost of doing that. And finally, the scenario simulation. The result is a tangible strategic value. Adapting digital supply chain moves from a cost reduction to a competitive differentiation. where those who actually have this digital are able to recover faster from disruptions, have lower inventory, which is lower working capital, improved service levels and customer satisfaction, and able to make better risk-adjusted margins. I'm going to walk through a couple of scenarios in few industries on how does the digitization actually help. The first example is actually on high-tech or semiconductor manufacturing. Before digitalization, wafer takes a long period, 20 to 40 weeks. In fact, it's getting longer, close to 52 weeks. We have poor demand visibility and a massive bullwhip effect that I mentioned earlier on. The pain point of this is constant firefighting and excess capital tied up because you have to invest more and more for a what if we do not know what if the demand goes up and so on. But after we have adopted digital supply chain, we actually can review the demand from the customers. We can share. We can look at how much capacity and analytics we can do from our capability. We can do a what if for digital planning, digital twins for our fab planning, as well as look at supplier risk. So it moves from a constant firefight to a proactive planning as well as risk mitigation. In the automotive industry, as you all know, automotive is also relying on semiconductor because most of the cars right now has electronics inside it compared to the traditional motor car that we used to have 20, 30 years ago, heavily dependent on semiconductors. The traditional ERP system, enterprise resource planning, and tier one visibility actually failed to flag the risk from deeper supply chain. The digital intervention actually provide the multi-tier supplier visibility, which is adopted by Toyota and Volkswagen. We also use the control towers to integrate real-time data from logistics, suppliers, as well as plant. And again, scenario planning tools to prioritize production of high margin models. In a constrained environment, which product that we need to build first so that we can make much profit. So leaders like Toyota outperform their peers by sustaining production, recovering faster, and have a better financial management. We move to the retail environment. In retail is where almost of our consumer goods are actually being purchased. The main challenge we have is panic buying. That means the demand goes up, and then the sudden collapse that creates chaos. This results in having excess inventory in wrong locations, stores, physical stores versus online, and so on. The digital intervention able to use real-time point of sales and online data to assess this. Also provides real-time inventory visibility across stores because they are all connected, which triggers the automated replenishment algorithm and logistic optimization. The advantage of this is high product availability during demand spikes, reduced markdown, and faster fulfillment. This actually enables retail winners to move from a forecast to a signal-driven supply chain, which I mentioned earlier on. Let's move to fast-moving consumer goods. The biggest challenge that the fast-moving consumer goods that we have is actually a volatile raw material and transportation costs. And there's a significant and intense pressure on profit margins. How does digital intervention help? It helps by looking at cost to serve analytics to understand the true profitability by product, which means you have multiple products, you are able to prioritize which is meeting demand at what weighted profit and so on, because everything is digitalized. It's not siloed. Better sourcing, because everything is in the network, all your suppliers. Again, digital scenario simulation, you can change the profit margins according to the impact of the pricing as well as the selling price. And more importantly, we actually leverage that into a supplier collaboration platform. That means your demand or your material is actually also visible to your suppliers. Global leaders like Unilever make targeted price increments and optimize their sourcing and protect their margin during the inflationary cycles. So digital supply chain enable profitability, intelligence, and not just efficiency. Another example would be on healthcare and pharmaceuticals. During COVID, there was extreme urgency of vaccine distribution. Then we have this strict cold chain compliance requirement because everything has expiry, and it's a very, very highly regulated and safety risk industry. The IoT enabled cold chain monitoring for real-time temperature tracking. We have real-time logistic to make sure the vaccine actually moves on real time on a predictable schedule, as well as eliminate the disruption because everything is visible. This has actually enabled supply chain as a tool for public health enabler, just not an operational tool. So we summarize the 5 examples that I gave just now. The pattern is from volatility to value. The semiconductor, the crisis was capacity chaos, enabled by digital twins and AI, which gave the strategic outcome of resilience advantage. From automotive is multi-tier visibility, which is faster recovery. From retail is demand volatility. We use demand sensing to give the sales protection. From FMCG is under inflation pressure. We use cost analytics for margin defense. And finally, healthcare, which is life critical delivery to usage of IoT and traceability to deliver the trust and safety. Various strategic outcome, but the pattern is clear. The targeted digital capability transform high-stake problems into measurable strategic advantage. In summary, digital supply chain is not to eliminate uncertainties. Uncertainties will continue to be there. We continue to have wars. We'll continue to have trade issues, taxation, interest rate, various environmental issues, and so on. But digital supply chain will convert this uncertainty into an informed decision making, a faster and resilient decision making. Resilience has become a competitive advantage and not a cost burden. This is a must. What is required for digital supply chain? This is not an IT project that you put everything into digital and then you link it up and so on. The core requirement for success is integrating the cross-functional from operations to finance to IT to logistics to sales. Everything has to come together. We have to empower for faster actions based on the data-driven culture that we have developed. And more importantly, we have to reskill our human capital into analytics and systemic thinking. Now, the hardest part in digital supply chain is not technology. It's the organizational alignment and mindset. The way that people look at it, look at all the advantage that we have and how to capitalize on the information that we have. Now, what are the risks and what are the formula for success? Most companies, the common pitfalls that we have actually, we invest on tools. Oh, I'm also going to digital. I continue to invest, buy this software, that software, no more spreadsheet, putting into systems and so on. But any data that has no quality is garbage in and you'll get garbage out. There's no intelligence inside it. Technology silos replacing process silos. That means you have multiple modules that has replaced our multiple Excels. They are not integrated. So when you bring technology, the technology has to get integrated. And finally, all this is possible only when we have executive ownership. So the success formula, you must have the technology, you must have the process which is governs it, and finally, the leadership ownership that actually owns the entire process, which is what we call digital resilience. Every company only can survive with competitive advantage. These are the new rules for competitive advantage. The economic chaos that we are seeing is structural, it's not temporary. As I mentioned earlier on, today is tariff, tomorrow is war. Hopefully not new pandemic, or logistic crisis, or semiconductor shortages. It continue to evolve. It's just a rollerblade that goes up and down, but a new problem every day. But the future advantage is actually how we react to it, the speed, the resilience, and the intelligence. And the most keyword, the critical metric that we need to have is now is decision velocity. And in order for us to do the decision, how fast we are doing the decision, what's the quality of decisions, you have to have digital supply chain. Leaders who digitize their supply chain now will shape the future while everybody else react to it. 3 items, which is a playbook for leadership. Number 1, how fast you're actually reacting, speed, scale. Number 2, how visible your entire supply chain and how intelligent is your supply chain. So all this has to get connected. Speed, visibility, intelligence. These are the 3 pointers for our new competitive advantage for leaders. That's the last slide. I'm open for questions now.
All right. Much obliged, Datuk Raghu, for that very insightful and engaging comparisons across different industries and all those presentations. We'll now move into Q&A session, just as Datuk Raghu requested, which will run right now. And participants may raise their hand or type questions in the chat if you are not able to open your mic. Please, everyone. This is a very great opportunity to learn directly from industry, from industry leader like Datuk Raghu Bathamenadan. So please feel free to ask. So everyone from Principle of Economics class, perhaps, or maybe from our esteemed lecturers, do you have any questions pertaining the related topics discussed tonight? Never mind, Dr. Raghu. If I may start with a question from myself. In your view, Dr. Raghu, ever since the COVID pandemic in 2020, internationally, organizations have struggled with how to improve their supply chains and ensure that they are able to navigate some of the uncertainties in the 2020s and beyond. Nowadays, many companies are turning to AI as part of their digital supply chain transformation, yet there's still uncertainty about how AI should be applied in practical and strategic way. From your experience, Dr. Raghu, in industry, how can AI be effectively leveraged in supply chains to improve decision making and its responsiveness, especially during periods of economic volatility, like you mentioned earlier in your presentation, while at the same time ensuring that organizations gain real value rather than just adopting AI as a trend? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Ahmad Fauzan. First of all, contrary to all belief, AI is not replacing the decision-making capability. Human is going to make the decision-making process. What it does is, as we need to bring AI, first you need to digitize all the information that you have into a central depository so that all the information and the data is actually in one location. So that eliminates the silo of operations, procurement, logistics, and sales, and so on. That's number one. Number two, human capability is actually limited in order for us to look at past history, past patterns that has happened. Everything that has happened is actually a repetitive cycle, right? It's to like what I mentioned earlier on. Um, Today is war, tomorrow is pandemic, and so on. But there will be a pattern, and human not able to see this pattern with spreadsheets. But AI will be able to analyze this and provide recommendations. This is how it has been in the past. For example, it will be able to look at, in my industry, it might look at last 5 year cycle and says that every second half of the year, this is how your demand fluctuation has gone up. This is how much flex that you needed. This is the demand you lost because you did not invest and all that. You look at any human, they will not be able to go and flip back all the records and looking at it. But because it's digitized, everything is in the system, AI will be, for you to ask the question, it will run and give you an answer. Now, look at the answer. That's where the executives need to make decisions on investments. How should we plan for future, right? What are the capital that we need to invest? What are the inventory that we should hold? And should we order more parts? Should we pay more now and get cheaper parts, or pay less and get more later? That kind of decisions. All this translates to competitive advantage because now we are looking at information that was not available in the past. That's where the competitive advantage is.
Thank you, Doctor, for answering it very thoroughly and very meticulously. Okay, please.
I have two questions, Dato'.
Dr. Narang.
The first one, in today's uncertainty global economy, many companies will face a limited budget and also skills. So based on your experience, what are the first simple and practical steps organization can take to start their digital supply chain transformation in their company without incurring high costs?
Number one is digitization is no longer an option. If everybody going to continue with the spreadsheet, their competitor will take over it. So it's a must already because the customers are actually demanding it for faster response, for faster service level agreements, and so on. Now, digital supply chain used to be very expensive. Now everybody is competing, and it's becoming much more affordable. It's part of cost of doing business already. But as I mentioned in my lecture notes earlier on, the challenge is actually not in the budget. The challenge is actually in the mindset leadership. Even in my own organization, to move somebody that has worked on spreadsheet for 10 years, planning one by one line item, to put the data into the system and giving away their controllability to the system and trusting the system. That is the culture change that we want. That is the biggest. That is actually at the lower level. Now, when you move up to the ladder at the executive or mid management level, the issue becomes bigger because they have been always looking at a lot of data to make decisions. Now somebody else is actually summarizing for you. Do they trust? How should I do this? Should I do not? The trust system, the ability to digest the data, the ability to ask the right question to the system. That is the challenge that I'm seeing. And more importantly, digitization cannot be done by one group, cannot be just done by the production control or procurement. It has to be done by the entire supply chain. If not, you will have a bar, but 3 or 4 holes actually being filled, another 2 is not filled. Then the ecosystem doesn't work. Everything has to be together. Then only you reap the benefit of the whole supply chain ecosystem. Of course, I've also mentioned, right, garbage in, garbage out. So if you don't put quality data inside the system, you'll get garbage out. So that's another challenge.
Okay, very interesting. I think we have question in the chat box.
All right, Dato, there's a question from a text box. Let me read. From UD Fernando. The question is, Dato, what is your opinion on the impact of geopolitical issues on supply chain digitalization and data security? What do Malaysian companies need to be aware of, and what mitigation strategies should they adopt? That's the question from UD Fernando. Dato, the floor is yours.
The first question is actually impact on geopolitical issues. I think we are already seeing it, right? For the last 1 year, we have been battling with the Trump decisions on the tariff that went up to 26% coming up and all that. So we actually, the way you actually can react to it is, for example, if the tariff goes up to 25%, you must be able to immediately know what is your P&L. So you have to have digitization to do that. The finance has to be digitized to link up with operations to do that. Now, in the event it was not there, we will be again in spreadsheets. The impact will be much more bigger if we didn't have the digitization. Data security, most of the companies are actually doing this in a cloud-based storage, right? The cloud-based storage is very secure, and I actually attended an AI training last month. The data that's actually being stored is actually not our Excel file that's actually being stored in cloud. It's actually broken into multiple pieces and kept in multiple data centers that only the user can actually pull it back. It's pretty secure, right? So that is how the cybersecurity is actually being developed. If the cybersecurity is so bad, nobody will invest on this. Nobody will even put any of their ERP system. Right now, everybody is actually moving to cloud ERP. There's no online premises, although it's cheaper and all that, but cloud ERP systems are actually becoming more and more. So security is actually assured by the data fragmentation by the cloud suppliers and so on, right?
Thanks heaps, Dato. And also thank you to UD Fernando for very brilliant questions. We have one more question, Dato. From Abdul Aziz bin Rusli. Dato, with the tools you have now, what type of disruption are you still most worried about that your digital supply chain might not see coming? What can be wrong? Is it a cyber attack on the digital infrastructure itself, a climate event, or something else?
I'm actually more worried about internal, where we put quality of the data and the quality of the data decision making, the mindset changes that we have, the capability of using the system, the upskilling of our people. We always think that we are going to do some planning and somebody is going to attack. The cloud providers, the ERP providers and all that are able to protect that because that's their core of their business. If not, nobody will come and take their solutions. People like Oracle, Kinaxis, Dishant, and i2 and so on, right? So it's more worried about upskilling, people putting the right data into the system, not hiding things that the people used to do in spreadsheet. For example, if line is able to do 10,000 units a day, previously in spreadsheet, they would have keyed in 9,800. 200 is actually buffer inside their pocket. How much transparency, how much of real data that's actually being put into it in order for us to have a complete view, a transparent view, right? That's more what is my worry. And that's where the executive ownership and process governance actually comes in. That's about my worry. You can invest in whatever systems that you have, but you don't have the ownership, you don't have the process governance, nothing will work.
All right, Doctor. Thank you very much again. We have Vasanta Ruben Analaki Murugan, who's raising his hands for the second time already. Vasanta Ruben, please, you may open your mic and
Good evening. Good evening, all. Good evening, Datuk. So
Good
my
evening.
question is, with this fast development in digital technologies, in this AI and data analytics, what skills that certain that graduates should focus on to stay relevant in future digital supply chains? Like what skills they should focus?
Two
Thank you.
items. In fact, I'm sending all my staff also for digital supply chain / AI training. Our capability of able to ask the right question, the right prompts to the whatever AI systems that we have. That's number one. Number two is look at our processing capability of all this digitized data. So data analytics training. So these are the two areas that I'm actually sending even my team. Now, things are going to change from previously, you need to go look for a lot of people for answers. Now, everything is going to be in front of you. You need to train yourself. What are the questions? What are the prompts? What are the intelligence that you want to harvest from the system? That is the data analytics training skills that you need to have. That's answer.
Thank you.
okay, thank you. And then we have Parasakti, anak perempuan Canon in line. Okay, please, Parasakti, please come up with your question to Datuk Raghu.
Hi, Doctor. Good evening.
Hello.
Okay. So from an industry point of view, what are the common mistakes companies make when adopting to this digital supply chain system and how they can avoid them in future?
Thank you. Very good question. Most of the companies, what do is they have a process that they have developed for years, right? And when they try to move into a digitized supply chain, what they expect is to take the current process and just digitize it, right? That means every flow, everything is the same, which is not the best in class, just to replicate it. That's the biggest mistake. Number one is your current process might not be optimized, might not be the best, but you have developed it over the year. The solution providers would have an industrial standard settings that has linked all the data together. Now, the transition from what we have today to the new platform has to enable adoption of the new platform, new processes, new governance, and so on. This is the common issues that we are seeing as well. Trying to do whatever they're doing manual into a digitized mode. That's the problem.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Datuk. So, yeah, you have any more questions? Please, Datuk, how many questions do you supposed to be? How many questions do you want to accept more?
I can go on. Please continue.
Okay. So, Dr. Khairunisa, do you have any questions to Datuk? Khairunisa.
I think there's a chat box question as well. Does digitization mediate the relationship between supply chain integration and company? Of course, I've already mentioned that, right? A value proposition, cost advantages, customer responses, profit, capital investments, lower inventories, and so on. All these are the company performance. All these elements will translate into revenue and gross profit and so on. So definitely it does. I think Mohammed Shafiq is asking a question, how does digital supply chain tools such as real-time data automation? I've actually answered this in my lecture notes. Once you have a continuity, you are able to see from the demand all the way to fulfillment, right? And you are able to see the inventory that you have, the supply, the raw material supplies that you're coming, the finished goods that you are having, how much work in progress that you have in your manufacturing floor, and so on. You will be able to do a better decisions on the supply based on the demand that we have. And this is where the digital supply chain tools help us. And to change any of it, you are able to use dashboards and decision-making tools to adjust if one of the parameters is becoming a problem. For example, let's say a company runs 88 days in a quarter. Typically, they will have 3 days of public holidays or something in a quarter. So we have a disruption. In here, disruption is a good disruption where the demand is more. And then you have the system will be able to tell us, okay, we have 3 days of excess capacity, and this 3 days of excess capacity is X value of products that can generate us X amount of margin with a Y of cost, because you have to operate cost on a public holiday. All this will be able to be done in the system, and the system will present the data for you. Your decision is to look at, this is my cost, this is my demand, this is my profit margin, this is my revenue. Should I turn it on? I'm just giving a simple example, right? So this is how we are actually using it.
All right. Thanks, Dato. Any more questions, please? Don't be shy.
There's a chat here question. This is a very interesting question. How open are SMEs to adopting digital supply chain? Are more SMEs becoming receptive or hesitant? Yes, they are hesitant and cautious because the cost might not be supportive, but more and more people are actually adopting this. My friend, a good friend of mine, has done a DBA thesis on this. Actually, it's called Cloud Adoption as SMEs in Malaysia, and what are the enablers and so on, what are the government help that is required and so on. The answer is yes, but they're becoming more receptive because the MNCs will drive the SMEs. SMEs is the backbone of the country that actually supports the MNC. In order for MNC to progress well, they're actually dependent on SMEs as well, because it's a supplier collaboration, right? As I mentioned earlier on, no point MNC is doing it, but the supply actually coming from SMEs. SMEs is still in Excel. So they will demand SMEs also to move to digitization so that we can link it up. But of course, there's cost pressure and everything, but they're actually moving more and more to this.
Thank you.
Digitization is no longer a choice. Digitization is a must.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Khairunisa, for your question to Datuk Raghu. Any more question, please? Please, there are no right, especially from the
Datuk,
okay.
Adib here from FIM. I'm the one who texts you.
Yes,
actually,
yes, Doctor.
first
How are
time
you?
meeting you. Yeah, so Datuk, actually, I have question continuity from Dr. Karunisa. So yeah, they're hesitant to adopt digital supply chain, but from your experience, actually, for those who want to try, what is their first step actually to go venture into? Because you said just now, digitalization is a must. So how Datuk can just advise, give opinions, and what is the first step for that to start?
So first step is to actually budget for it. It has to actually budget. It has to go into their operating plan, because this cannot be done in any digitalization or supply chain. It's not a 1 month, 2 months project. It's minimum takes 2 months. 2 years to implement actually. And first of all is look at the level of digitization they have, the budget that's required, what is the project timeline, and most importantly is what their customers are demanding. For example, if the MNCs are actually demanding by next year, I need all of your data, no longer send us in spreadsheet, but actually it has to be keyed into our portal so that it's all linked up, that would drive the SMEs. But in order for us to do this, they have to have this as part of the operating plan in order for us to budget it. Right?
So it means that but just now you said about you fill the holes to create the system, right? So means what? Even though the first step, they must fill all the what they said just now, fill the holes, the key department. So they must start parallelly, is it?
First of all, is create the database, right? Everything that is actually on paper has to be in digitized mode. That's the first step. You cannot have data that's in papers and everything. Everything has to be loaded into a database. That is the first step.
Okay, understand. Thank you,
Right.
Dato'.
Right.
Good morning. Good morning. Good evening, Dato'.
Good evening.
Yeah, I'm Farhan from FAME as well. So basically, I would like to ask, based on your opinion, because just now you mentioned that most of the current employees can embed this new knowledge, which is they have to learn about digitization, so on and so forth. All right. So based on your opinion, because you are the CEO of the company, so what skills and competency should graduates develop to remain relevant in an increasing digital supply chain environment?
I've actually mentioned it earlier, which is the data analytics skills, ability to process data, what are the questions that we're able to ask, and okay, as well as looking at capability of digitization. Now, there's a lot of courses that's coming up, which I'm also sending my team, is actually called supply chain AI kind of training, right? That they will teach us how to move on from a traditional supply chain management to an AI-based supply chain management, with comes together with the digitization supply chain. But in summary, it's AI and data analytics, right? And data analytics here is just not about supply chain. There's a lot of data analytics courses there that's able to be provided both for engineering, supply chain, manufacturing, and so on. Okay.
Okay, thank you,
Any
Muhammad Farhan, for the questions. Muhammad Farhan, do you mind if I ask which class do you from? Are you an MBA student?
I am actually colleagues with Dr. Adib.
Oh, Dr. Adib, I see. All right, so
Maximum.
it means that not so many from our students actually ask questions from Datuk Raghu. So please, students, undergraduate student, degree students, from Principles of Economics class, and from MBA programs, please ask Datuk Raghu. There's no right or wrong questions. Just, we strongly encourage participants to engage with Datuk Raghu, because this I would call it once in a 1,000 times rare opportunity for us to have a very industry leader like Datuk Raghu to join with us, and sharing insights from his side. So please, everyone, students particularly, please ask questions. If you couldn't open your mic, just type in the box and I'll read it out.
I think there's a hands up. Chin Yi Hing. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Doctor. I want to ask that, is there a relationship between supplier change and inflation?
Supply chain and inflation.
Yes.
Oh, definitely. Inflation will happen whether you like it or not. All right. Inflation is an economic process. Supply chain or digitization of supply chain is how we actually reacting to the inflation. Whether we react or not, inflation will be there. How efficient we're going to address the inflation is how the digital supply chain is going to behave or being used. Yeah, definitely there's relationship.
Dato, I have a question too. Recently, I saw the news regarding that Donald Trump, the president of the United States, just slapped us with another additional tariffs due to our, diplomatic ties with Iran. So do you think this also, all these tariffs also somehow affecting our digital supply chains in Malaysia?
I think the adoption will be accelerated because now you need to make decisions faster and all that. But as I mentioned, all that the ecosystem is the disruption that we're having is structural, right? It's not one event. Today is Donald Trump, tomorrow will be somebody else, tomorrow wars and all that. How are you going to respond to it? You cannot respond to it via the old traditional planning systems. You have to have the digitized planning systems or digital supply chain system, which gives you the faster, the better resilience, the better decision making process, and so on. Right? I think there's a question from Abdul Aziz that's asking, digital supply chains are controlled by SAP, Oracle, data centralized location. As a leader, do you see the future where national, regional, digital platform become a matter of strategic sovereignty? Should Malaysia centers like your champion an Asia-based digital supply chain architecture to prevent future chaos being detected by external tech and politic forces? So this is a very, very, very brilliant question. Now, yes, all the guys are actually being controlled by the the West mainly. They are actually control most of the softwares, but they can't just the way they make money is actually they have to have the client that operates throughout the world, right? So they have the responsibility of making sure that all the platforms, all the countries has the access. Excuse me. Have the access to the solutions, right? So it will not be a country that owns it, they don't want to give it up and all that, because that would collapse the entire thing, because the logistic is handled somewhere else, the raw parts is handled somewhere else. What they own is actually the system. The process itself is much more bigger than the system. Now, Asia-based digital supply chain architecture. I think that's why the Ministry of Digital is actually has been formed by PMX. There's more and more activities actually that's being driven by the Ministry of Digital. Of course, yesterday I had a meeting as well with AmCham. We are looking at how to start up a supply chain council under the AmCham as well. So a lot of work that's actually being done, but not because of to prevent future chaos by external party and all that, but just how to make Malaysia a more formative leader in the supply chain arena, right? Nur Nabila, implementing digital supply chain, how critical is talent and digital skill compared to technology? The technology is useless without the skill. It's like you are having a bicycle, but you don't know how to ride it. So it has to come together, right? And to your question, how is workforce is skilling? That's where we are calling it as an augmented workforce, that we are actually moving up from managing spreadsheets to actually moving into a data-driven decision-making, data analytical skills, and so on, right? So that's we are doing. Datuk, should companies be held accountable for cybersecurity failures caused by suppliers? The suppliers has a responsibility because they have an obligation to the customers, same like any customers, any manufacturers to their customers. So it's actually a continuous flow. Pharmaceutical supply chain often face issue of counterfeit drugs and quality control. How does blockchain coupled with real-time tracking help product integrity? Yeah, so this is a good question as well. The security or the counterfeit is one component at the manufacturing authenticity, right? The product itself has originality, right? The system actually moves the product according to what is in the system. It will not be able to say like, this is asli, this is duplicate, this is real, this is not. It's not like that, because it will not be able to see. What you see is part numbers and so on. The manufacturers has to ensure product integrity, right? Okay, Fauzan, I think we can take a last one or two questions.
Yes, one last question from Muhammad Farhan bin Haji Asmir. Dato, do digital supply chains pose a threat of job displacement in Malaysia, or do they primarily lead to job redesign and new career pathways?
The second one, job redesign and new career path, upskill, we call it augmented workforce.
All right, Dato, I think that's it. That will be all. Thank you very much, Dato, for your time. So
Thank you for the opportunity. Right?
Yeah, before we conclude, please bear with us a little for a while. We'll take just a short moment for a virtual group photo. So please, everyone, open your camera. And who will be the PR? That Dr. Nisa, can you take a screenshot from your PC, because I'm using my tablet right now? It will be so good. Dr. Nisa, are you there?
Yes, but I'm using my handphone right now.
Okay, no mind. How about Dr. Naraina? Can you take a screenshot for our group photo?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. Please, everyone, open your camera.
Okay. Please open your camera, everyone. Okay. Right, ready, yeah? 1, 2, 3.
Freestyle. One more.
Wait, we have a few pages here. Wait. Wait, because we have 5 pages, so I need to snap for every pages. Wait, yeah.
It's okay.
Don't move. We still have 3 more pages. Wait. Because the participants are quite many, yeah. We have 126 participants, so harap bersabar. Two more, wait. Yeah, last page. All right, finish. Thank you. Okay, over to you.
All right. Okay, thank you once again, Datuk Raghu Bathamenadan, and thank you also. I would like to also thank to Dr. Noraina Mazun for the questions, for joining this MS Teams Industrial Talk, and also to Dr. Karunisa, to Dr. Adib, and whatnot, other lecturers, perhaps other colleagues of Dr. Noraina.
I see Dr. Hanafia has actually joined us.
Oh, really? Yeah, Dr.
Odin
Hanafia.
is there.
Good evening.
Hi, Dato.
Oh yeah,
Observing the staff and also the student, how they respond to your talk. Thank you very much, Dato, for very wonderful sharing. It's very grateful for us to get very extremely good input to us. Inshallah, Dato, more collaboration with you, including maybe to see how we can improve our program, our curriculum, and more from your team as well to contribute to the faculty. Inshallah, I also share some of photos of while you are doing the talking to our Vice Chancellor Inshallah, let meet in future face to face and discuss further, Dato'.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ivan.
So thank you to all students who are joining this talk and support. Henceforth, we have come to the end of tonight's industrial talk. So thank you everyone for joining us again, and thanks in abundance again, Datuk Raghu Bathamenadan, for such a valuable sharing session. We wish you a very pleasant evening, and we hope to see you again in the near future and at our future programs, inshallah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato'.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dato'.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Great evening. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Excellent.